right, so a quick overview of assignment 6. So assignment 6 is likely to be our last assignment, and you can see that currently it's saying April 30th, but obviously we're going to extend it for a week because we're just getting to finish this conversation about files, directories, and other file level metadata. So this is going to be updated, and this is going to be May 7th, I think, is going to be the due date. So we're essentially extending it by 1 week, May 7th. Okay, and just a reminder that the next week is our final week. So whatever fits today and Thursday, and then next Tuesday is pretty much going to be our wrap-up of what we've covered so far. In the future, we will be able to cover more information in CIS 260. Okay, assignment 6. Let's. This is actually a surprisingly short description. This is just a very short set of instructions to write code which finds the largest file in a directory. Right, so and that directory is, presumes that you find out also whether this is the largest file in all of the subdirectories as well. So this needs to recursively traverse through the through a specific directory. So what I'm picturing is that you write a program. So we can go back to our demo here. So you can write a program something like this, that the window, this this has to use graphical user interface, like we said. Once we introduce GUI, all coding is going to be done in using graphical user interface. Okay, so this is a window that I'm picturing you can get, and what you need to specify is basically a path, like a directory path, right? And you can create a text box for that. And so the user is expected to specify a path to a directory on the file system. Make sure that you do all the validation, right? Validation is important. If this is some sort of garbage, you need to tell the user that this is not a valid directory. They have to provide you the valid directory. So once this runs and scans the directory and files the files, and of course it should find subdirectories that it needs to visit as well. So it should determine what the biggest item is, what the biggest size file there is, and it should print basically a small report down here. You can use like a multi-line text area to display information about the file, right? So it would be good to see the path, the size of the file, you know, all the elements. They're actually listed here, right? Print file name containing directory size and time of its last modification. Okay, so you've seen all of these attributes. All of these attributes are part of our presentation on files and paths, right? So files and paths have methods, and also file and path classes have methods that return the necessary file attributes. Once you have the file attributes, you can look at them. So you need to go back to this presentation and essentially find information where this information can come from. We've been covering this last week, and today we've covered the requirement for recursive processing of subdirectories, right? Today we had an example how you can write some code which successfully dives into any subdirectories if they exist, finds everything in them, and successfully comes back. Okay, so write an application that asks the user for a path, validate the directory. It has to be a true directory path and not some kind of garbage. It should not also be a path to the file, right? If it's a path to the file, you should say a directory path is expected, not file path. So if the directory does not exist, we should notify the user. If directory does exist, we should find the largest file and report its information about it. If the directory does not contain any files, we can tell the user we really didn't find anything, right? So since you have to populate some local variables with the information about the file name, directory size, last modification timestamp, things like that, I'm assuming that if those variables fail to receive any values during this recursive processing, what you need to say, you should basically maybe look at the size, initialize it to 0, and if it remains 0, you can just tell the user, I really didn't find anything, and so forth. So essentially, you can also maintain the counter of how many files you have processed. And this, by the way, is something else that we can demonstrate here today, right? So for instance, if I wanted to count the items, for instance, if I wanted to count the files, see how I'm saying in this visit directory, I have this is regular file check. And so if it's a regular file, I could do something like this. I could increment file count, right? I could increment file count. And before I start processing, somewhere in my main routine, what I can do is, before I do this initial visit, I can say file count equals 0. Okay, and of course now I need to create this, and since my methods are all static, I'm just going to main and just say that this is this can be public. Actually, what I'm saying is private, private static int. File count, and I can initialize it to be 0, right? So at the end, when my visitation is finished, right? What I can do here, when I get out of the last directory, what I can do is just say system.out.print print another line, and print this file count, and say this many files have been processed, right? Okay, so this many files have been processed. So let's give this a try, run it again. Okay, it says 8 files have been processed. It looks like true, right? Two more, and 2. So altogether 8. So this seems to be working okay, right? So the idea is that you organize your code in some kind of a class, right? So there it doesn't have to be static, okay? It can be your file system directory scanner or visitor, or whatever you name that class, and you can create an integer there, and that integer can be incremented. Just remember that you have to reset it to 0 before you do the initial entry into your top level directory, and then of course you can display the results. So this kind of demonstrates what you can do in terms of improving it even more, that you can essentially count how many files are present there, and you can say this is the largest file when you report it, because you can essentially keep the size and keep comparing it with the sizes of existing files, and just remember which one seems to be the biggest one, and once you make your decision, print the results. So if initial path contains subdirectories, the program should recursively navigate through the subdirectories. This is pretty much all day long already. We've been talking about this. If the program fails to properly traverse the subdirectories, 20 points will be deducted. So you can still write it very simple, in a very simple manner, but some points will be deducted. So now that we have covered this, just remember this has to have graphical user interface. All right, so it needs to interact with the user. It needs to validate the initial path. If it fails to validate, it's not doing the right thing. And of course, it needs to report the results properly. Okay, so these are all the requirements. You're welcome to use NetBeans Form Designer. Use all of the facilities you can get to design your interface and make it just a good well-structured program. Okay, so that's as far as assignment 6 is going. Any questions about it? Any concerns about it? So like I said, the due date is extended till next week, May 7th.